Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Corey Rosen. I am with the Story Podcast, and today do I have a guest for you. His name is Henry Devorick. Devorick. Sorry. Henry is a recent graduate from Lebanon Valley College, class of 2020, with degrees in audio production and music composition. He has been playing bass and guitar since adolescence and became a proficient jazz artist within college. He plays bass in several bands and freelances throughout Pennsylvania. I have the personal pleasure of knowing Henry and playing with him a few times, and I am very excited to have you on the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Good?
Glad to be here.
Yeah,
it's cool. We're in a glass box, people walking around.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
So where do we start is the question. How about we start from what inspired you to do music?
That's a good one. I want to say Guitar Hero 2.
Yeah.
But I was taking like piano lessons. I don't know. I was 8 maybe, or 7 or 8 or something like that. I didn't really like it very much. And then I think for my 10th birthday, I got Guitar Hero 2. And then, I don't know, they had like Carry On My Wayward Son and some like Primus songs, John the Fisherman. I don't know, all that kind of stuff. So after that, I got into, I started taking guitar lessons when I was about 10.
So you started on guitar first?
Well, yeah, after piano, guitar, but I didn't get very far on piano. And then guitar, and then it didn't take me very long, I think, to go to bass. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think, were sort of what got me there. I heard some, like, probably Danny California or something on the radio. Whenever that was, when I was 12 or something.
So you've been doing that. When would you say the first time you like wrote a song?
I probably tried when I was like 12 or something like that, but I don't know. I kind of remember it, but I don't think it got very far.
Most first songs don't get very far, do they? It takes like 500 songs to actually like get good at songwriting, and you have like a few good ones before then, but
yeah, I don't know. I still write pretty bad songs a lot of the time, so
that's okay. So where'd you grow up from?
I'm from Lidditz.
So right here, local, born and raised.
Have you
ever branched out there, or you have been just here pretty much?
Not really. Like I went to, like you said, I went to Lebanon Valley. So that's just one county over or whatever. But
right.
No, I never really lived anywhere else. No, I gone out of the country a couple times for vacation, but which was cool, going to Europe and stuff like that with my dad. But
for sure.
Pretty much just been here since the beginning.
So you grew up writing songs. When did you start going out into the music scene, like open mics or actually like networking your way into the music industry here?
Yeah, well, I had a band called the Skiffs in high school. And we played, I forget what our band, I think it was Downfall or something when we were 12. We played the talent show at our elementary school. So since then, I've been sort of, into it. But yeah, so with the Skiffs mostly, we were playing at like the Chameleon Club when it was here. It was a great place. It's kind of like, it got a little bit stale. Like people really like it, but for us, we played it like 5 times or something like that. It's like, okay, got to do something else. So from there, we did, some like small festivals, stuff like that. We're sort of a jam band,
Gotcha.
we're leaning that way. So, we kind of started doing that kind of stuff. But basically, when I went to LVC, I kind of hit the brakes on all that stuff. There's not much of a scene out there. Like, I'm trying to think really where the closest place you could go. It's probably Lancaster to find an open mic.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know of any in Lebanon. There's not all that many gig opportunities in Lebanon. Like maybe Hershey if you drive
far
Ritzy.
enough, yeah.
Yeah, well, Hershey's not too far from LVC, but yeah, I don't know. It's like probably vineyard gigs or something like that, like Ritzy stuff. Wasn't necessarily for me.
So you kind of So you kind of put a pause on your local band stuff for your college career.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
What do you think would be your most helpful? What do you think is your most instrumental part of your college career, in terms of learning music and then wanting to do it for maybe not a living, but like for like, well, I guess you do it for a living, right?
Mhm.
You were
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I teach mostly at the moment.
Yeah.
Teach guitar and stuff like that. As far as like the most valuable thing from college, that's a tricky one to narrow down. I think a lot of it is connections, like just meeting other people that are into the same thing. It took me maybe a year and a half or whatever to find the right people. Otherwise, I was like, a bunch of people from my high school were on the lacrosse team, so that was all right place to go and party or whatever, have a good time. Like I had sort of not my team, but some sort of team of people to.
You had a group.
Yeah, but they weren't musicians, so that was a little bit like confusing or whatever, like not that satisfying. But eventually, I met a bunch of people that I played with, probably in the jazz band was kind of where it came from, in the jazz combo, like the small, like it was called small jazz, which is weird, but small jazz ensemble. So I think like meeting people and just hanging out with them, talking music, like consistently with people, or just like hanging out and listening to records and that kind of thing.
And I bet practicing 1,000,000 hours a day.
Sure. I wasn't that.
Oh, me neither.
I wasn't that much of a maniac. But my bass teacher there, you know, he I guess he went to LVC as well. But he was talking about like he would skip class and stuff like that to practice. But I wasn't that much of a maniac. But his name is Tim Wolf. I learned a lot from him as well. Just kind of, we would talk about general music stuff, like what do you do as a musician, like when you come into contact with drugs or something like that, like just kind of more
like ethical questions kind of stuff.
Yeah, like what do I do? Like how do you handle that?
It's an interesting question because the music industry, as anyone would know, is filled with all these different kinds of drugs, these different addictions, alcohol being a big part of it, considering most local live stuff is at a bar. And then I forget, are you religious at all?
Not really. I would say I'm spiritual, but
fair enough. Because
that was hippy-dippy answer.
No, right? Yeah, no, I understand and respect that. But coming from a Christian perspective, it's definitely hard to. That's a conversation we have a lot within the musical theater department, especially because that can be so secular and ripped apart from like culturally Christian values, and like how do we deal with like going on to a Kinky Boots rehearsal or like Mamma Mia or stuff that's I don't know that much about Mamma Mia, but just pulling stuff out of my head.
Right.
But it's
Heathers or something.
Yeah, Heather, or something just like that's almost completely removed from Christianity. And how do we act as a Christian? How do we approach that as a Christian? How do we deal with the different drugs that are involved with everything? Because it's if you're not involved, it's a surprising amount. And it's hard. The temptation is real because and there's a good side to this and a bad side to this. Everyone there is very much like communal, and it's very much like accepting and very like, hey, you want a drink or something like that. So it's very hard to say no to those kind of things, and you have to have and I'm not knocking anybody, but it's the matter of the fact that you have to have like a strong will to resist that, because there's so many paths that kind of thing can go wrong.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I've noticed and respect about you is like we're going out to these open mics or whatever. You're always drinking water. Like it's hard for people. Like I'm not even necessarily the biggest fan of alcohol or whatever, but I'm like, well, I'm here, so I might as well have a beer, especially if it's at like Hell in a Bucket in Wrightsville, the brewery. It's like, I'll try one of their beers or whatever. I'll support them.
Right. It's hard to go out to like local bars like that. And because I want to support local areas. It's just that first off, I don't like the taste of beer or alcohol.
Okay.
Second off, my dad wasn't the best father to me in regards to alcohol, so that's why I'm kind of like wary on it.
Absolutely.
And I talked about this a little earlier on the show. I did a little bit earlier, but my dad's a great dad to me. I love him now.
Right.
6 or 7 years sober, and I'm really proud of that. But growing up, it was bad to say the least.
Sure.
There was like domestic abuse and all that kind of stuff going on. So and that's the main reason why I'm turned off of alcohol.
Gotcha.
It just tastes horrible to me.
Yeah.
So I know for other people it's their bread and butter. If they don't have a drink, they can't go up on stage sometimes.
Sure.
So navigating that is a real issue.
Right.
And a deep topic to talk about.
Yeah. So for me, having like a teacher or whoever to talk about that kind of stuff without feeling like I'm going to get scolded or like, asked to leave or whatever, like that kind of stuff, just having a comfortable environment to talk about topics that are really important and that like most people don't really get to talk about or even maybe understand is an issue.
Right. Yeah, because I definitely didn't understand it when I went to the first open mic at Telus.
Okay.
Those are Monday nights at like 7. If you guys are interested, definitely.
Yeah, they're fun.
They're really fun. Definitely go out to them. But the amount of like cigarettes, alcohol, the amount of people that do more extreme things.
Right. There's definitely people messed up sometimes. You can tell.
Yeah, there's definitely more going on there, and it's to a person on the outside, like as a Christian coming into it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Absolutely.
And however, you can't just back away from that. You have to go towards it. And a lot of these people, they're broken inside, and that's where it comes down to.
Right.
And some of them are in danger of themselves, if you catch my drift.
For sure.
And being, in my view as a Christian, if I can go out there and make someone's night better or make sure that they are happy when they leave, that's my goal done. That's my quote unquote evangelism, showing the love of Christ to others, and making sure that they are safe, because it is very unsafe or it can be it can be very unsafe if you're especially not with the right crowd. And if you're especially surrounding yourself with all this extra negative energy, and all the drama that can happen within the music industry as well, for sure. We know a bit about that.
I know a lot about that.
So, coming out of college, how did you meet specific bands that you play with, like General Semantics? Are you still with them, or?
I haven't heard very much from them. It's not much of a thing. Honestly, I think it's from like Facebook, or I like jammed with Woody. I don't even know how it came to be. I think I was with my buddies Matt and Jeff. They have like it's called the New Working Men. It's like a Grateful Dead cover band kind of thing, jam band. We were rehearsing, and then like Woody heard us, and he's like, "Yeah, you gotta come jam." So jammed with him, and then later on down the road heard something from him, like playing with Bjorn before we had the name General Semantics, and Mike Rasafi was the other guy who plays guitar.
Right.
They're all phenomenal, but yeah, the drama of all that kind of stuff, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, there was, from what I know, a lot of drama from that.
Absolutely.
You've been a part of a few bands.
How
does one overcome the drama, or how does one deal with that? Because at some point you just have to say enough is enough.
Absolutely.
And that's completely fair. But what's the tension point between, okay, this isn't acceptable? Because there's always going to be drama, no matter who you're dealing with. Everyone's a different person, and you're going to have different views on stuff. How do you healthily deal with that?
Yeah. That's a good question, because I think with that group in particular, I sort of just let it go. Like, to me, I guess something like the potential opportunity was like, to me, seemed so high to be playing with musicians of that caliber, was really exciting to me. So there's some red flags or whatever that I kind of just like let go. Like,
because you're kind of weighing your costs and benefits.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely learned from that, like, to be more forthright about it. Like, you know, this is what I find acceptable. This is what I find unacceptable. So I don't know. I think some of it's just being honest. Like, is this really what's happening? Are you doing drugs right now? Or did you just, like, earlier today or whatever, like, you know, having that sort of discussion, like
being professional and having boundaries set. Like,
exactly.
Hey, when we work on these projects, you need to be at the top of your game, not in la la land.
Right.
And that is hard coming. Oh, I got a voice crack. It's hard, especially with you know, musicians that do drugs. That's just the fact of life. They do that kind of thing, and you have to navigate that. And there's a healthy association with certain drugs, and then there's much more unhealthy ways of dealing with things. And unfortunately, the music scene is full of unhealthy users and abusers.
Yeah, well, and some of it is like you could almost not have it. I mean, it seems like you could almost not have it without it. Like, some people lean into the sort of tortured artist thing pretty hard.
Yeah.
And I should be careful because it can happen without it. Like, it doesn't need drugs at all. Even like Frank Zappa or whatever, he was like vehemently anti-drug, and he's got the craziest music that you could find. So it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the drugs themselves, I think. But like you said, some people are definitely their worst enemy as far as that kind of stuff is concerned.
And there is beautiful things that can come from horrible things. We were talking a lot about Elton John earlier, and how he's gone through this incredible journey of dealing with drugs, dealing with all these other social issues, and still coming out and writing the song "I'm Still Standing." That not only inspires, it comes from a place of like truth and rawness from Elton John, but it helps so many more people to understand that, hey, I have this problem, yet even me, Elton John, bigger than life, wearing all sorts of stuff, and if he can go through it and come out of it and be, you know, still Elton John, you can too,
for sure.
And there's been many contributions to music. Like Chicago was always on drugs. Beatles heavily influenced with substance.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I'll say drugs are bad. Yes, but
drugs are bad. Okay.
Drugs are bad. Don't do your drugs, except the ones that are prescribed. But without that, there is a lot of music opportunity lost for sure, and there's a lot of activism lost within that as well.
Yeah, because I don't know, it's easy to get in a rut or whatever, and just sort of get in these bad cycles, and it feels like you're trapped or something like that. Like, or that, I guess what I was trying to say earlier is that, like, maybe you feel like you can't do it without it, or like you need whatever, it might be pot to get loose, or something like that, or alcohol, whatever. Like you mentioned, someone might need a drink in order to get the courage to go up on stage, or feel like they need one. So I don't know, navigating that, it's tricky, but I think it's just knowing basically like what, how to hold yourself, like what's best for yourself.
Holding yourself accountable.
Yeah, holding yourself accountable, and not in a selfish way necessarily, but like, what is it really that's healthy for me? Like, and same sort of similar thing, drawing boundaries. Like, you know, is this going to be a problem for me if this sort of thing happens? Like, being honest with yourself and with other people, I think is really important. But even like, I play in a Southern rock cover band. It's called Mama's Horn, with a bunch of like older dudes. But there's not any drugs involved other than alcohol at the bars or whatever. But some of those guys just have like tough personalities. There's some, not necessarily drama, but maybe like infighting.
Yeah, some
like,
people are rude. Some people are very blunt.
Right.
Some people don't know how to softly tell you things, or
Yeah.
and that depends on your personality too. I'd rather be told something outright than beat around the bush.
Sure.
But I know some people are gentler
Mm-hmm.
and need that special, like, hey, this is what's going on, this is bothering me, blah blah blah,
Right.
blah, instead of an outright, almost sometimes yelling match. Or
Yeah, definitely. Well, and some of it too with that band is like a couple of the guys are not really like they never played in bands before maybe, or
so not
don't have all
accustomed.
that much music like experience, or so like even just trying to communicate can be difficult, like just trying to get them to understand what you're trying to say. They
That's
might not have the words or vocabulary for that.
that's definitely an interesting conversation to have, because I know when I'm always out with you, I'll always look, because you have an incredible ear to
Appreciate that.
hear like different chords. So I'll always look at you, and I'm like, I have an ear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just finding home and
Okay.
realizing what key we're in. Because once I realize what key we're in, I'm pretty decent from there on.
Yeah.
But knowing exactly, like, when someone plays an E chord and I have no context whatsoever at any
Yeah.
chord or whatever, it's hard to pick out. And especially with artists like, for example, Cody Kilburn, we had a project with him in the past, but he has no vocabulary in regards to chords that he's playing, or he just knows I do this chord and it looks like this shape.
Right.
And that's all I know. And I sing this as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a really fun time of going through it, breaking it down, and figuring out what the chords were, what the structure was,
Right.
and then how to best accompany that structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure it's a lot of work to, and sometimes that's fun. Other times it's really annoying.
Yeah, it can be frustrating.
Yeah, especially if they don't warn you that, hey, I don't know nothing. Right?
Yeah, you have to figure it all out.
Right.
Well, the thing with the cover band is nice, at least, because it's like you just listen to the recording and you basically know whether or not it's right or wrong.
Right.
As opposed to like playing with Cody, he's like, did I capo this song on the 3rd fret or the 4th fret? And it's like,
So
I can't help
whatever.
you out.
It's whatever this chord sounds like. That's all I know.
Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't even necessarily have to be drugs that are the issue that for drama, or it can be girls for sure. It can be
girls, yeah, for a fact.
Yeah, it can be just not even being able to communicate necessarily, like we were talking about musically. And that reminds me too, you asked what I got out of college. The one thing I forgot about is like we had ear training. I had like 3 or 4 semesters of ear training. So that was really helpful as far as like being able to identify chords, as well as my jazz piano lessons on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of marrying those two, where you can hear, I don't even want to get into stupid jazz chords, but D major 7 over F sharp or something like that.
Something
that is
like
what that is.
Flat 5, sharp 19. Ridiculous chords.
Yeah, get out there.
Yeah, we definitely had that here at LBC, but I was just like, I can't be bothered because it's so hard. Especially, I don't have perfect pitch at all.
Me neither.
But they expected me to be able to sing something, and I can't really. I'm not a very good singer. Granted, I'll admit that it has helped me for sure. I'm not knocking that at all. I just wish it was more concentrated on like, here's this chord. What chord is that? Instead of
within context.
Within some sort of context. And then we can grow out of context, because that's the pinnacle of like, you see child prodigies. They play like this ridiculous chord and they sing every pitch and they know exactly what the chord is, and I'm like, that should be the goal. Of course, it's hard. It's hard as heck to get there as like a 20 or as like a college age student, because that stuff should be taught at a pro tip. If you ever want to make a child prodigy,
right,
have
as a child.
Do it as a child. They'll learn so much quicker, and they'll be cemented in their brain so much longer than as an adult. But that's not to knock. You can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think of like think it's Rick Beato has a video of his son doing that kind of
Yeah,
thing. He'll
yeah,
play
yeah.
like weird polychords and like sing every pitch. Yeah, and, like that's a D flat over E or something
Right,
like
it's
that. Like
stupid chords that would never ever be used outside of the most intense level 7 jazz.
yeah, I don't, and even for like just a split second, probably rather than
Right, than staying on it.
Yeah, what is that exactly right now? Tell me.
So you currently went on tour with the Danny Zinger band, right?
Yeah, Denny Zinger. Yeah.
So what was that like?
That was a lot of fun. That's Lancaster. It's like a prog rock band. I describe it as half King Crimson, half Modest Mouse. That's my description. They say Deep Purple. It's rock with an organ player.
Oh yeah,
so
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a 4-piece. It's me on bass. Victor Montgomery sings and plays guitar, and then Ethan Dexter plays. Yeah, he's got an organ, like an 80s Yamaha, I think, organ, and a couple of synths, and then Parker Gallagher on drums. And I know Parker from high school. That's kind of how I got.
That was your in?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, it's sort of a blur. I'm in like 4 or 5 bands or something like that. So how exactly I got into all of them sometimes
no, that's valid.
Goes by the wayside. But the tour, it was almost like a vacation. It wasn't the most profitable thing, and wasn't really expecting it to be. It was sort of just a DIY.
Just kind of like go for the experience kind of thing.
Absolutely. See what it's like out on the road, and we learned a lot. Like it could be profitable. You just have to do it right. And like we got hotels every night and stuff like that. So some of it too is like just networking. Like
people you can stay at.
Right. We stayed with our friend Eli Perron. He's from Lancaster. I don't know if it's Perron, if it's Perron. I'm butchering it. But he went to Mannheim Central, I think. And I played alongside his band with my band, the Skiffs, in high school and stuff like that. So I've known him for a while, and Parker played with him as well. But we stayed at his place in Nashville for a couple of days.
That's cool.
It was awesome. Nashville, I think, was my favorite.
Nashville is awesome. They go Broadway,
right?
And then you can be at one bar, hear like your standard country music. You could walk 3 steps and you're hearing like just jazz or prog rock. It's all different. If you ever go to Nashville, definitely check out Broadway Street for sure.
Yeah, we went there a couple times. It doesn't really matter what time of day it is. It's always crowded.
It's always music. It's always crowded. It's like New York City, but like hillbilly almost.
Yeah, everybody was wearing cowboy boots and cowboy hats. People were saying like that's the only place that people wear boots, basically. Like you go anywhere else and nobody's wearing them, but you want to go fit in on Broadway Street, wear your boots.
Wear boots.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But like if we knew more people with whom we could stay, that would save a lot of money. And we were booking hotels like last minute kind of every night.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to sleep in the van.
Right, yeah. That's a thing that me and my friend went on a road trip, kind of hit the same circle as you almost.
Okay.
We went up to Chicago. We hit St. Louis and then went to Nashville that way. And we had decided to sleep in a car because we knew, first off, we weren't making any money on this trip. It was just a vacation road trip. So we decided to sleep in a car. One thing we had talked about doing but never really did was packing food instead of going out to like Wendy's or wherever that's around.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
And that'll save you tons and tons of money.
Right. We did some grocery shopping, but we didn't get like lunch meat or anything like that.
Right.
It could have actually been
useful.
Yeah, like a real meal. We had plenty of snacks, and I think some people bought like cans of tuna and stuff like that or whatever. But
nothing sustainable for like a meal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't eat tuna, but that seemed okay to pass the time a little bit before we hit McDonald's. Basically, though, it's like sort of inevitable that we were gonna go. I don't know, somewhere. It seemed like chicken sandwiches were the theme of the trip for some reason. We went to Bojangles, Chick-fil-A.
Oh yeah.
Guy Fieri has a place in Nashville. It's like Chicken Guy or something like that.
That's one thing I kind of regret about going to Nashville. I didn't spend enough time downtown in the area. We only spent a little bit on Broadway because we went to the Parthenon, and then we went to the African American Museum of African American Music History. I forget exactly what it's called, but it was one of the coolest museums I've ever been to. Actually, it's like,
I didn't know that existed.
Oh, it's really cool. You can make your own like pop, hip hop music. You can record your own jazz and like blues stuff, and it's extensive history on like all the the black music that's been around, and that has heavily influenced American culture even to this day. Yeah. And you can save it all on like a wristband, and it's like, I think it was like $25 something to get it. Okay. So it's super, super cool. Definitely recommend if you ever go out there again. Yeah. But yeah, I wish I had spent more time in the downtown area and just walking around and experiencing the Music City as it is, instead of being, I guess I would be a tourist either way, but doing the more touristy stuff, rather be a musician in the heart of, at least the music heart of the Midwest. Right. That would have been.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We played at I think it was a place called the Underground. I can't remember if it was like West Nashville, like not downtown. But that was cool with a bunch of Lancaster bands actually. There's a dude Winton. I think it's Huddle is his last name, but he played with Medusa Disco for a while. Lancaster band here, and like our friend Eli we mentioned played with us, so we had a bill of like just Lancaster.
That's cool.
Musicians, it was awesome. Yeah, and even Winton's like drummer or something happened to be from here too. So there's a lot of Lancaster people down there, or just all around. Yeah, we ended up. I think the last place we went to before we came back was Chicago, and there was some guy at a bar there. He's like, "Yeah, I'm from Lancaster too."
Wow, that's weird. Small world, isn't it?
Yeah.
You should definitely put me in contact with some of those people. I'd love to have them on.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. They're living in Nashville, at least Eli and like Winton and them. But they're great to talk to. Yeah, the guys from Medusa Disco. I think I played with them with the Skiffs as well, like at the Chameleon Club, that kind of stuff. So they've been around for a while. Yeah, I don't know that I learned a bunch though from the tour. It was good too that we just like didn't kill each other. Sort of.
Right. That's
we knew that we can spend some time with each other without getting too
up in arms about it.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really anything that went wrong.
That's really the danger of going on a tour with somebody, is that you got to be sure that you're okay with, being in a close spot with them. Right. Maybe not showering in a few while, and then being sleepy and cranky at the same time and still getting along together. Yeah. And, you're packing in and out whole entire sets and studios sometimes. Yeah. You got to be very okay with the people you're with, or else it's not going to be a fun time at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, even just that alone, it went pretty well. Nothing went terribly wrong. We only got kicked out of one hotel. So, for being stinky, I think, pretty much.
Really?
Basically, they said something about us going up and down the stairs too much and smoking too many cigarettes or something like that. I don't see how that can be an issue really, but okay.
Yeah, some people have their preferences.
The Econo Lodge, we don't have to stay there anymore. That's totally fine, or whatever it was. I don't think it was the Econo Lodge, but that kind of stuff, Super 8 or something like that.
Right, like not even cheap. Like a cheap hotel.
Yeah,
that's interesting. So we've been talking a lot about networking. Mm-hmm. How are you an introvert?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what
I try to. Sometimes I pretend that I'm not, but pretty much.
We all have to pretend that we're not.
Yeah,
I'm a super introvert too. I don't know if you could tell, but yeah, right.
For sure. Takes one to know one.
Right, exactly. I'm pretty sure that you kind of were one a little bit. How do you get out of that space of comfort within yourself, and then actually like go out to talk to these super talented musicians? Because believe it or not, there's a great number of talent in Lancaster City.
Absolutely.
And like Robin Chambers, who I'm gonna have on at some point.
Yeah.
Bjorn Jacobson, we talked about him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And those are just a few that are off the top of my head.
Right.
How does one, and they're like, I wouldn't say the world class, but they're definitely on the professional level of.
Absolutely.
And Robin's been everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
She has a gigantic following.
Right.
How do you approach those kinds of people with that in mind, without being completely and utterly making yourself look like an idiot, but also not being like intimidated and scared?
Sure.
Because they are just people after all.
Yeah. I think for me, most of it has just been actually from playing, like at the open mics or whatever. It's just I'm really comfortable jamming with people or whatever. Like I said, I played in a jam band for a while and stuff. So I just love playing music with other people. So for me, it's easier just to play music than to try to
conversate.
Yeah, and try to talk. I don't know. I was talking to some like random girls at one of our Baltimore shows, Denny Zinger. And the girl's like, "Are you nervous?" It's like, not really. I mean, now I am talking to you, but like not about playing music.
That's funny. You're more nervous talking to people than you are actually doing the thing you came here to do.
Absolutely. But because I'm confident I can do a good job, or at least halfway decent job playing music or whatever. So a lot of it is just kind of that, like having a good time playing with these people, and then sort of getting a mutual respect. That way, like music first, and then then talking first, after that. Yeah. But one thing that I learned too from tour, when we went to Nashville, I guess some of these bands basically just get paid tips. Yeah. So they would like have one of the singers come around with a tip bucket, like during the set.
Kind of like a New York style where they do a street performance and then someone goes around with like a hat or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of learned from that I should be doing that at our shows, or that someone should be doing that. It's a little bit uncomfortable.
Oh, for sure. Asking people for money is always uncomfortable.
Right. But people are willing to do it a lot of the time, which was surprising, I think, to a lot of us. Like sometimes, but I was the guy that had to do that, basically, right. or that would do that, because like I said, I felt like someone had to do it. And nobody else was. So that for me helped get out of the comfort zone. But some of it too is, like I said, like a lot of these people really they did want to help. Like I said, we're touring from Lancaster. I sort of had a script.
Right.
So maybe that's one thing. Like I know what I'm going to say sort of ahead of time, loosely at least. But so that was nice. And like, people generally responded pretty well to it, or like we're happy to help, at least a couple bucks. And some people gave like a lot of money, or $20 or something like that, $10.
Those couple bucks will help for
absolutely
immensely.
And like, yeah, part of my script was basically it's gas money, like, and it's true. The gas was not quite as expensive. Yeah, I don't think it was as expensive as it is now, but it was super expensive. Like. I don't even remember.
No, I
it was
remember
like $90 a gas tank or something like that in this van.
I remember exactly the gas prices because I was freaked out back in November when I went to Chicago, and around here it was like $3.50, $3.60 something, and then I went to Chicago, and as soon as we crossed the border into Illinois, it jumped up to $4.39, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm 22 years old. I don't remember the '08 crash when apparently gas was that level as well.
Sure.
But when I went to Chicago, I was like, there's no way.
Right.
And I was so happy I'd filled up before. And then, as we went to Nashville, it was like the lowest I saw it there back in November was $2.85, and I was like, whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But gas definitely was something we had to budget out because, and thank God we didn't go now, or else it would be like hundreds of dollars more, probably.
Yeah. I think it was like at least $5 when we got into Illinois.
That's
per gallon.
Ridiculous, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. We had a good time in the South, though. Those guys smoked cigarettes and stuff, so that they just liked that cigarettes were cheaper.
Right.
A lot of it. But people were a little bit more welcoming, I think, or at least outwardly friendly, as opposed to, like, I'm from here, but a lot of people here are outwardly sort of cold or outwardly like not very welcoming.
That's definitely a trend I see as you go more north and more north. It's kind of like the people change with the weather. As you get more north and north, it's colder and colder and colder. People are more, they won't even smile at you or like wait or like give you like a head nod or anything.
Right.
Down south, it is definitely the case. Well, they'll straight up sometimes invite you into their home without a real question.
Right.
And they'll just talk to you for hours without. It's not transactional. It's more authentic.
Right.
Than and we were talking a lot about that earlier about building authentic relationships, because that's how you really network and you connect with people on a deeper level, and that's how you get more work as a result.
Yeah.
Because if you're plastic with somebody, they're gonna know you're being plastic with them. They're gonna know that this person, I know them, but also, and having that real authentic relationship with somebody will put you first in their mind and say, hey, do you know a bass player? Yeah, I know Henry. He plays bass. He's an awesome guy. Reach out to him.
Right.
And
yeah.
And that's valuable, especially when you play bass, like a common instrument around here, where there's so many, like Liam Galano.
Yeah.
That's the only bass player that's coming in my mind. Nathan Ardent.
I think Caden Myers, he went to LVC, but he plays with a buddy, Corey Paternoster.
Oh yeah. Okay, I know
him. Yeah, he has a drum studio. Next to where we rehearsed with Cody.
They have open mics there Sunday afternoons or Sunday evenings if you want to check that out.
That's awesome.
And they've really renovated the space into like an actual legit studio.
I haven't been there in a while. Yeah, it's been months probably.
It's really nice. So meeting those people, having those genuine connections is definitely important. And that's why I wanted to ask you, like, how do you approach somebody? Because it's super easy to be like, hey, how are you? And then like get all the surfacey stuff, but it's harder to get into the deeper conversations that really matter when it comes to music, especially because there's so many ways to play a song.
Sure.
And for example, House of the Rising Sun. That's kind of like one that I go to because everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Cody plays it differently than Bjorn does, than anybody else does. We all play it differently. And having the know-with-all to be able to go up there, play along, and match the vibe. How many... I guess that's a lot of what you do, especially as the bass player who is laying down the bass and all the sick rips and everything.
Sure.
How instrumental, pardon the pun,
nice.
is that to, like, do you guys like talk about that, like bass lines and all that jazz, or?
So it depends whether or not, and I like, some people are more looking for something. Yeah. Some people are looking for something specific sometimes, and otherwise, and what I mean to say is some people the other way, that are a little bit more trusting maybe, or will just sort of let me do my own thing. But I mean, some of it too comes down to just rapport, like knowing the person, like knowing that what they want without them having to tell you,
and knowing the style that they're in.
But or in Bjorn's case, we're jamming with people, like just being able to sort of read
the room,
read where he's going, or I learned from playing with him to be much more visual, like to really be looking at him, especially like I'll do background vocals with him sometimes, to really be matching his breath and stuff, and just being open, I think, like to the person. And at some point I sort of stopped caring about making mistakes or about being wrong. It's just like, it was almost, maybe it was a little bit selfish. Just like, I'm going to do this, what's best for me, like make mistakes. And if it messes things up a little bit, like it's not the biggest deal.
No one's going to care. Everyone's going to come up to you afterward and say, that was amazing and everything. I'm sure, because you and I have played like my improv, and at some points that's been frustrating a little bit for you.
Sometimes you got a lot of chords in there. Sometimes I was just like, let's just play one chord.
right. But it's it's much more fun to just. And I'm not knocking you for doing that, because
No,
I can
likewise.
understand the frustration, because I would be upset as well if someone was like, oh, we're just gonna improv, but and then not give any chord structure as a person
Sure.
who can't hear things,
Uh-huh.
because that would be I would just sit down at that point and enjoy the music. But it's a lot more fun just to relax, don't care. We're just gonna jam, and I might get stuff wrong, and that's okay.
Right.
And you know what? Who says it's wrong anyway?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
A performance is a performance, and that's the only time that particular performance is going to be played. If people hate it, who cares?
Right.
If people like it, I mean, I care about if people like it or not, but in the grand scheme of things, you're going to mess up.
Yeah.
And that's one thing people have to realize as a musician. I know so many people who knock themselves, who did a really good job, in my mind at least, and then they come off and say, that was horrible, man.
Right.
And then they just self-defeat themselves into submission, and they never accept their flaws or their perceived flaws, because a lot of the perceived flaws is what makes them unique.
Sure.
And it's what adds a lot of character to their songs and story writing. For example, Cody Bilburn, he has a shortness of breath issue, and sometimes that gets on his nerves, but other times that is his style, that is his characteristic. It makes his songs more emotional because of it, and it's so much better to mentally to think of, I'm gonna play my song and it's gonna be the way it is,
right? Rather than it's got to be perfect
or cookie cutter,
someone else.
Or like somebody else. That's another thing we have a problem with in the music industry, is always constantly comparing.
Right.
We talked about this earlier as well, as like sometimes we view other artists as taking opportunity away from us, when in fact it's not that they're taking opportunity away from us. It's that we are so self-constricted to when we could just reach out to the person and say, hey, can I play with you? Sometimes it's as simple as that, and there's your opportunity right there. It's all about community when it comes down to it with music.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Without the community, there is really no music.
Yeah, especially in these like open mics or whatever. Like, I'm gonna go to Hell in a Bucket tonight, but it's pretty much more or less it's like the same sort of people that are there every time.
Right.
So it is really important that at least you don't piss these people off if they're not your best friend or whatever. Like, you want to have respect for them, and they'll have respect for you as a performer, or just as a dude hanging out. So I don't know, you said a lot of stuff that I sort of want to go back to. One thing was like, trying to tie it in back to what I was saying about messing up maybe in the moment, but not letting it get to you. Like you mentioned people coming off stage and be like, oh man, that was terrible or whatever. It's like, you're
your own biggest critic.
Yeah. Why? I mean, for me, it's like, as long as I'm performing, I'm trying to do my best at all times too. So it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, if I make a mistake, that it, first of all, it happens. And I'm not necessarily like expecting to be perfect. I think that's one thing to keep in mind, is that like a lot of music is not playing everything perfect, but understanding and being comfortable with when the mistakes happen, knowing how to fix them, or
just living with it,
or living with that. And that's a jazz thing too.
Sure.
Just like, this is going to happen, or a jam thing. Like, now all of a sudden we're doing this thing that we've never done before, where there's like a breakdown that I wasn't expecting necessarily, but that kind of ties into the feeling it too, or looking for it. There's often cues for it, even when that kind of unscripted stuff happens. It's like, here we go into the section we've never done before. Like, this is a jam now. So yeah, talking about like beating yourself up, you can definitely be your own worst enemy. And then going back to comparing yourself with other people, I think I had something probably when I was in high school about like, I'll never be like Prince, who like plays all these instruments and records and produces all his stuff by himself. And I sort of like felt defeated by that. But it's like, I should be a little bit more focused on what I'm doing like today that was better than yesterday or whatever, in my own terms, rather than like comparing myself to Prince or like to some child prodigy or whoever it might be.
Because the matter of fact is that you aren't Prince, and
Right.
you are Henry.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You need to be the best Henry can be, and that's not by comparing yourself. In fact, comparing yourself to other people is going to hurt you overall.
Yeah.
You need to be focused on yourself, and that's not to say to be egotistical about yourself, but
Right.
being real with yourself.
And that's what I was saying earlier too, with like playing with other people, is just like knowing who you are, sort of being comfortable with that. And yeah, exactly my point too is yeah, I'm not going to be Prince. So for me to say like, you know, I'm not as good as Prince or whatever is just
It's
not helpful at
No.
all. It's not useful.
You can say I want to be like Prince,
Right.
but you're never gonna be Prince.
Yeah.
For example, my biggest inspiration is probably Elton John.
Okay.
I love his music and I love his piano playing, and that's kind of who, and his orchestration style and everything about him.
Okay.
So I definitely want to emulate or take lessons from Elton John, but I know I'm never gonna be Elton John because I'm not Elton John.
Right.
My name is Corey Rosen, and that's who I am. So it's, and there's that can be applied in so many different areas, not only just
Absolutely.
music, but in like whatever you're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take responsibility and accept your own limitations and your own personality, because somebody can come up to you and be like, "You want to play Jimi Hendrix?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll play Jimi Hendrix." And that same person might still be upset with you that you didn't play it right.
Yeah.
But you have to, and you have to say to them as well and to yourself, "Well, I'm not Jimi Hendrix."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think sort of going back to like just being like making genuine connections with people too is the same thing, like not pretending like you're someone that you're not. It helps a lot. And one thing I learned, to take it back to Tim Wolf, my bass professor, was like, you know, one thing that really helps with music or with whatever is just being a good person to hang out with, like
being a fun person.
Yeah, or just even a real person,
Yeah.
as long as you're not being rude or whatever, but overly blunt. Yeah,
and caring. You gotta care
for sure.
There's definitely and you have to know your place within the relationship as well.
Yeah.
If you're just like acquaintance with somebody, you can't go in and talk real talk with them,
Sure.
unless you know they can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely, it's social cues are important,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to know them. That's one thing as an introvert I never really got quite hold of. And that's something I'm learning right now. Like, for example, I'll go out to an open mic and be on my phone the entire time, and that's not how you should deal with those situations at all. You need to be in the situation and reacting to the situation, because the amount of just clapping goes a long way for musicians, like self-esteem and everything. Yeah. It's so annoying sometimes, or heartbreaking, where you go to an open mic and people are just talking over your set, and it's just
right.
And
or you finish a song and it's like crickets,
and it's just still chatter, and it's like, well, do I even want to go again?
Right.
So this can go for not only musicians, but audience members, people that go out to music. Always, even if you didn't like the piece, I'm always going to be clapping for them, because encouraging the musician is what's important. If someone's doing art, I might not like it, but I know somebody else is going to like it. And I don't want to crush somebody's creative spirit.
Yeah.
I want them to keep making what they make, even though if I personally don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one thing that I've really liked about teaching guitar, teaching bass, whatever, ukulele, piano a little bit, is just getting to sort of be hands-on with people, developing that spirit, and that's really fun, because likewise I always want to encourage people, even if they're bad at first, and they will be if you're a beginner.
Everybody's gonna be bad at first.
It's knowing that's not the end of the journey, and just nurturing that kind of stuff, like having fun. And like I said, I love playing music with people. For me, it's like it's the most fun thing. It feels amazing for some reason. It feels very comfortable for me.
It's
like
cathartic.
That's where I want to be. Yeah. So I don't know. I've had a great time teaching for that reason alone, just to be that sort of encouraging person and get paid for it too is nice.
Being paid for the work you do is always really nice. And it's what you get to encourage like certain kids and stuff that is beyond them and they don't even know it.
Right.
Music is such a beyond oneself concept and idea, and you have to. I think it's almost. The only word that comes to my mind is instrumental.
Nice.
But it's truly, it's like it's imperative to the human experience, music.
I agree.
And I feel like it's a personal loss if I'm not telling you to bring your child to, whatever lesson or whatever, but to have them experiment at least, to try something out and see what they like, because music is just so, even if it's karaoke, singing like the Disney songs like I did as a kid, it's just so impactful to a child, and that is where they can get a lot of their self-confidence from, their self-esteem. But there's a flip side to that too, because the music can be very depressing as well.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a balance there, but encouraging a healthy relationship with music and self-expression, I can't tell you how much emotions I've let go of because of the songs I've written. Right. And just stuff that was just bearing down on me and would not leave because I didn't write it out, or B, it's just being inside. Getting something out like that is such an instrumental, it's such an imperative thing to do, and music does that perfectly. And you don't have to know all that much to do it. You just even if you just write poetry, that's like another kind of thing that will help your child immensely, mentally, even sometimes physically, because mental health is tied to your physical health in a lot of ways. So I definitely encourage anybody listening to get their child involved with some sort of music, whether it's just listening, or you have your old family guitar that maybe needs new strings. Maybe that can be a project you can work on with your kid. Right. Just doing some stuff that have fun with it, man. You gotta have fun with music.
My dad took me to like I think it was the New York Philharmonic or something like that. When I was a kid, we went on the train and up to New York, and that was really fun. And like I didn't require me really to play anything. Right. Just going somewhere. Yeah, and it was like Kids Day or something like that. So there's a whole bunch of kids there. So that was a lot of fun and a good experience, like with what can be sort of a weird, intimidating atmosphere, in particular the like orchestral kind of posh music, right? And yeah, like who knows, if you don't have to do that if you can't afford it. I don't like it. Right. That for me wasn't a consideration. I was go
to high school performances,
right? Even the open mics,
open mics, and obviously you can't really take your children there, but for Probably not. It's probably not a good idea. But like, there's high schools everywhere around here that are doing, concerts for free all the time. Right. Even football games, like you have your halftime show. Yeah. And that's one way. That's how I started as a kid. I did marching band, and like children's choir with the school, and that's how I got heavily involved with music, and that's how it got me through my high school, because high school is middle school, high school is such a rough time for kids, especially. Having that release of course, I was banging on drums, so it was really cathartic for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I did drumline too. Yeah. In high school.
So, and plus, you'll have a strong kid if you do marching band. Your calves are going to be made out of steel. Right. Granted, I do have back problems. However, that's because I decided to march the xylophone. Oh, yeah, right. So like metal keys.
I was thinking like quads or something. The tenors.
Quads are heavy, but nothing compared to like an actual like glockenspiel on a carrier. It's especially with like no waist strap. We didn't have those. Yeah, so it's a bit rough. Yeah, and walking a mile in those is not fun. Yeah. to say the least. But so how has that been like a teaching kids, is that, or like people how to play guitar? Is that like a sincere passion for you?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna try to start doing, like basically full time. I basically had been doing that, and then I took the month off because of the tour, and just to kind of figure it out. Once I got back, it was 2 weeks tour and 2 weeks kind of vacation, chill out, try to figure out my life a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I've had a great time, and some of it for me it is like just nurturing myself too, giving myself that space of like being encouraging, or being, not that I'm necessarily all that mentally unhealthy, but I'm not the most healthy person ever out there. So
Everybody got their issues. Yeah.
right, and I struggle with self-esteem and or like being confident and stuff like that. So just being able to teach has really helped me, and myself sort of get out of that bubble. Like I really am worth it or whatever. Like I really am making a difference. That kind of stuff. That even that alone is almost worth it for me. And it that's a little bit selfish, but I think some of it is just like taking care of yourself, being confident in yourself, and then you got to put your mask on first before you put your child's mask on.
Right. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true.
So that has been a good lesson for me, as well. Like I learned I couldn't really play guitar when I started teaching, so now I can sort of play guitar. So it's been helpful, but it is a passion. At the moment, it's made me feel, like I said, good, and like that I'm doing something. Because I think one of the trickiest things about playing music is like, well, first of all, how to monetize it.
Right. Yeah.
So I sort of just, when I was in my last semester at college, like, what am I going to do? And this was during COVID. My last semester, 2020, was half of it was online because of COVID.
Right.
So I was like, what am I going to do now? But my plan at that point was, or like right before then, was, to basically do what I'm doing now, try to teach as much as possible and gig as much as possible too, every weekend if I can. So yeah, I've been really enjoying that. I think I've grown a lot as a musician for sure. That and going to open mics, jamming with as many people as possible. I think those two things combined, like I feel like I've really learned a lot. Like I'm still learning a lot. And I have a friend he plays guitar. He says that he's an intermediate. I haven't heard him play, so I can't say. But that he sometimes feels like he's in a rut, or whatever, that he's been stuck for a while. So yeah, I don't know. Like teaching in that way, like I could easily feel that way about my own guitar playing. Mm-hmm. But it sort of forces me to at least be one step ahead, and often I'm more than that, but sometimes it can feel like, I'm not really, I'm sort of I guess the imposter syndrome thing. I was dealing with that for a while because, like I said, I don't really even think of myself as a guitarist or a guitar player. Though most people that see me play guitar would be like, why are you saying that? Like, obviously you play guitar.
Right.
But yeah. I don't feel like, I feel like a bass player that just like is pretending to play guitar or something like that. So again, for me, that has just been very helpful personally, that kind of stuff. And then the other side of it is like to see the student, whether or not it's a adult or a child, grow and have a good time jamming or whatever, learning a song that they wanted to learn. Like that's a great feeling.
That's like, everything.
Yeah. And that's what makes it worth it in the end, is like to say like, you can do this if you want to, like, and why should it stop at guitar? Right.
So that's going to wrap up our radio time a little bit. So where can people find you? We're both of us are actually going to be heading over to Helena Bucket in Wrightsville to play tonight. If you guys want to come out, come out. we'll be there.
Yeah.
But any other projects you got coming on where people can follow you?
Honestly, my Facebook at the moment is the best place to find me. Henry Devorick. I'm the only one. I'm the only Henry Devorick, as far as I am aware. I'm playing this Saturday with Octavia Blues Band. I think Octavia Lamb is her name, but she plays harmonica, and that's a lot of fun. That's at 551 West on Saturday night. That's the only thing I can think of that's coming up. But I have some music on Spotify if you're interested. Under Henry Devorick is one, and then Nelson Umbrella is sort of my artist name. I have some stuff under there too. So that's where you can find me: Facebook, Instagram. I don't have Twitter, just those two. But I'm pretty easy to reach. It goes right to my phone. So if you got something to say, I'll probably see it.
All right. Well, that's going to conclude our radio time. We're going to continue on Facebook Live. So if you want to follow us at The Story on Facebook, you can do that there. Now back to the radio.
Thanks for having me.
LBC Radio on social media. Keep up with everything happening on the air and behind the scenes, including the Charge and Go morning show and brand new shows launching soon. Search
Oh yeah, go for it.
Where is
So this is going live. It's funny. So yeah, you go around the corner and it's literally on your left, right there. Yeah. Yeah, it does look like it. We're gonna take a little bit of a break here. Unfortunately, Henry didn't give me any music to play for his from his band, so unfortunately, but that's okay. Next time, we'll definitely have that. Oh, I can play one of my songs though. I'll do that. Why not?
When I am weak, can no longer speak, you are there, right beside me. When all hope is lost, and I can't bear the cost, you are there, paying it for me. And when things turn to dust, and there's nothing to trust, you are there, honest to me. Oh, it's clear who you're meant to be. You are my strength. You are my faith. When all things fade away, you remain. When I've been crying, everything is dying, you are there, breathing life into me. And all I do is fear, and nothing seems clear. You are there, comforting me. Oh, it's clear who you're meant to be. Oh, you are my strength. You are my faith. When all things fade away, you remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you remain. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell them all. That's when every kingdom falls. Yeah, you remain. still remains. So I'm gonna sing and shout and tell that when every game falls in you still remain. Yes, you are my strength. You are my faith. When all things fade away, you remain.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. It's really funny. I just realized that our mics were on that entire time, so
I figured they were.
we're totally professional here at the story.
100%.
So we have talked about your passion for teaching music.
Mhm.
Another question then would be, have you ever wanted to start? Because you have a passion for both people and then music. How does one coalesce all of that together into a project, into like an album, into like a festival even?
Sure.
Do you have much experience with that, or?
I've done a little bit of recording and stuff like that. As far as like festivals go, not really, or like producing events, not so much. I know from my experience at LVC, there was a record label called Veil. Every year they would choose like a artist to be their, I'm getting a phone call, to be their like artist of the year. And then that's one semester. And then the other semester they host like, I think it's called Veil Conference, like a music conference of all sorts. I think they even got into like film and other media kind of stuff too.
Cool.
So from that, I know, how much work it takes to even just get like a small or medium-sized like conference or kind of thing going. It's a lot of logistical issues, or just like making sure people really know what's going on, and
like marketing and getting it out there.
Yeah.
That's one thing. One of the larger plans for this podcast is or one of my future plans is to put together a music festival.
Okay.
And I had this podcast idea before I even had the music festival idea.
Sure.
But I was talking with Bjorn once at the old tavern, and he had talked about how he had almost organized a music festival. He got as far as to getting mayoral approval, which is pretty far.
Right.
In Buchanan Park.
Yeah.
And
I remember him talking about that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but then COVID kind of shut everything down. And so I was like, well, if Bjorn can do it, that means I can do it.
Sure.
At least, because I had never considered the possibility with it being within the realm of one person being able to do it.
Right.
So part of this podcast is to not only draw people in, and like, the main goal is to provide a space for people to give advice and talk about their stories and everything, but to really encourage, and community is the biggest part of this podcast. And what better way to bring together this community of diverse people, all the way from actors. We're going to have an actress casting Martin on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. So from actresses to venue owners, I'm going to be having a venue owner over in Coatesville come on. I'm going to have different directors come on, different even worship leaders. I'm going to have the worship leader from Victory Church come on at some point.
Okay.
Because he's going to be my roommate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that the one in Lidditz?
Ephrata, I think, is their main campus.
Oh, okay.
Victory Church.
I think there's one in Lidditz. Like
there is one in
close to
Lidditz,
my
yeah.
house. Okay.
So just having all that kind of different people come together and put on a festival where we can have, just a great local economy and community together, because Lancaster is a great place for that.
Absolutely.
And it's not really been done before on at least a consistent basis. This is something I want to be like annual festival.
Sure.
So that way we can get, because there's always new talent around here, and
Yeah.
there's so much activity around here, and it's so central because Pittsburgh's not like it's like 4 hours away, but that's like for a festival, that's an easy drive.
Sure.
For Philly is like an hour away.
New
Baltimore,
York.
DC is like 2 hours away. Down south, New York City is only like 3 hours away.
Right.
So for a festival, it's not that much either.
Yeah.
And it's so central and so instrumental.
Yeah.
It would be such a cool thing to grab these people. And York and Harrisburg are great circles of music there too.
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool to bring them all together and have this really nice big festival where you have just all day music, a variety of genres, and then you have all these different vendors like local bars that like having Hell in a Bucket, DeFrancesco's Meadery, that's also in like Columbia, Wrightsville area.
Yeah. Yeah, I host
and-
an open mic at DeFrancesco every other week on Saturday. So
Yeah,
go
from
out
2 to
that.
6.
2 to 6.
Great food, and
I
great
think
alcohol
next
too.
Saturday is the next one. Yeah, good
Yeah.
mead.
Good mead, very good mead. I must say I do like myself some mead actually.
Okay.
Because
Sweet.
it's sweet. That's the thing. It's not
Mm.
bitter or anything.
Right.
But yeah, so it's really just bringing everyone together, and I don't mean to say screw the big corporations or anything, but like it's TELUS has been everywhere. You know what I mean? I'll give recognition to TELUS, but I'd rather give recognition to the smaller, not in the city, bars and venues that really could use the attention, especially coming out of COVID,
Right.
where
That
everybody,
killed a lot of
yeah,
businesses for sure.
where everybody is trying to make something out of almost nothing, and where people are just now being comfortable. Like people have been comfortable all throughout the pandemic coming out. That's just been the fact,
Especially around here.
especially around here. And that's not to say whether it's bad or good.
Right.
It's just a fact. But especially now, as more people are willing to come out and support live music again, as the wheels start turning, I feel like it's really important to highlight these musicians and venues that aren't really thought about outside of the circle that we have within our own ranks. There is a specific core. There are different circles of musicians within the Lancaster community. There's like the Bjorn group that has like Robin, you, me, and several others within that. Then there's like the Nathan Arden circle that has all of his people. The Liam Galano circle that has all of his people, and then there's the Cody Kilburn circle over in York that has all those fans, and we're not talking just musicians, but also like fan bases, because they are not they're separate.
Yeah.
And
There are people that come out, like, for example, to like all of Bjorn's shows or like most of them or whatever. Like, and I've met a lot of people like that too, just people that like to come out, not expecting to play music or wanting to, but just there to enjoy it. Yeah. And that's really important too, that those people are there. That's one thing I like a lot about Hell in a Bucket too. Is not only is it like a sort of similar crowd of musicians every time, but the people too are pretty regular, and they're always there to support the music and stuff like that. So
they'll be dancing around, and it's a really fun time. Sometimes it gets a little too hot, but you know what? That's okay.
It's a small place.
It is a small place, but it's a really cool place to host and have a good time. And it's places like those that need more recognition, because imagine all the stuff they could do if they receive. It's not like they're on Main Street,
Right.
Like every bar like TELUS 360.
Yeah. People probably don't really go out of their way to
go there unless they know about it.
Right.
And that's part of this project, is to get names out there, get people out there, and just encourage local economy. Because if I had a choice between McDonald's and like a local what's a local cafe around here?
Prince Street.
551
Sure, right.
Avenue. There you go. When you try to think of something, everything goes blank. If I had a choice of supporting McDonald's or 551, I'd rather support the local business. 551. McDonald's is always going to be McDonald's, and it's going to be everywhere.
Right.
But 551, if they don't have any patrons, they're done. That's it.
For sure.
Or like Wits End was a good example.
Yeah, that was in Mount Joy.
Yeah, it was in Mount Joy. But no, they couldn't. They had a few problems. They couldn't get the license, but still, if people had known it, they made some really good food.
Right.
And I bet they could have gotten along if they had done food.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like surprisingly good. I remember that.
Really good food, yeah. So it's getting the name out there, and that's something I wish musicians did a bit more, was collaborate with each other and get more involved. Yeah,
that's one thing, like, as far as you asking me about it, I haven't really been thinking about that sort of like community organizing all that much. I tend to just stick to whatever is happening in the moment, whether it's with students or their parents or whatever, or in the performance, like just who's there. I'm not really one to market all that aggressively, like on Facebook or whatever. I'll share some stuff, but that's pretty much all I use Facebook for.
Right.
I don't know. I've always been a little bit contemptuous of social media, of like aggressive marketing, as far as music goes, because some of it is like, obviously, I don't necessarily have any concrete examples, but like music on the radio is like, this is like, I could do this, or this is like not very good at all. Like it's clearly someone's got money, or like the labels spend a lot of money getting this on the radio. Like,
right.
So I've always been a little bit contemptuous of that kind of stuff. Like, not the biggest fan of seeing these people become famous and they're sort of terrible artists, or like not that great in my opinion.
Right.
So I don't know. I've sort of been sort of a grassroots, especially more recently, kind of guy, just like word of mouth, and building a community that way rather than, with the internet or social media or whatever.
There's a hard line between being grassroots and then like corporate.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the not so good music comes from nowadays.
Exactly.
It's all just corporate jargon that we've heard a million times.
Yeah.
And the same 1 5 6 4 chord progression that has every single song written to it. And just these generic ideas. There's nothing really new. It's out there, but it's much more pressed at like a big shot Ariana Grande or a Lady. I guess Lady Gaga doesn't really make music anymore, but like Justin Bieber, or I guess not Justin Bieber anymore either. Whoever's relevant nowadays.
Harry Styles,
Zayn, just to name a few. It's probably going to be more generic ear candy than it is real, authentic. And so not to say that they don't produce that, because they definitely do.
Yeah.
It's just not what's on the radio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't sell. At least that's sort of my cynical take, as far
and most of the time it doesn't.
I can remember. Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily turn on the pop radio station and be like, "Wow, that was amazing!" Like, I'm so glad I listened to that.
Right.
Like,
nothing really soul changing.
Right. But sometimes I'll turn on like XBN or whatever, and it's like, oh, that's a cool song. Like, I never heard that before, or whatever. Even if it's like the World Cafe live kind of stuff that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I've been a little bit cynical that way for a while, just about the whole business thing. Which is sort of why I'm going the way that I'm going too. Is I remember thinking to myself, like, man, I would hate to be a recording artist right now. Like, that's just not necessarily for me, as far as like, look at me, check out my music, like, give me your money. It's like, I'm just here, like what you were saying earlier, to make people feel better, or feel good in the moment and have a good time where you are now, if it's at Hell in a Bucket or Tellus or wherever else you might be going to see a show. To me, that's more important than any sort of fame or rich, like getting rich.
Prosperity.
Yeah.
It truly is all about the community. And that's something I've had to like learn as like a producer myself. I produce my own music and write my own music and all that jazz. It is hard to, because on one level you want to monetize it because so you can keep doing it. But that should never necessarily be the goal. Because if you just try to sell out to people, you're going to come across as plastic and fake.
Mm-hmm.
You have it's definitely a balance that you have to have, and that includes going out to these open mics and just playing with people that you never thought you would play with before. Like I never thought I could play with Bjorn Jacobson because his music is legitimately really complex at times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to play. Sometimes it's really hard to play.
Sure.
Especially if you're just going up randomly without having talked to him about what's the chord progressions. And then if you talk about to him about that, it's going to be like random chord progressions that aren't normal whatsoever.
Sure.
And that's not to knock, and that's just to say that it's hard to get to both, because you have to market yourself. Yeah, there's the internet, but the most important market to get yourself out there is the local scene. If people know your name locally, that's going to do a lot more for you than it ever will nationally, because people are going to look at you nationally and be like, who's Corey Rosen? Who's Henry? I don't know them. But if you're from Lancaster, you've probably heard of the name Bjorn Jacobson. You've probably heard of Henry. You've probably heard of my name at some point or wherever. If you go out to the local scene, if you're involved in the local scene, you've probably heard of Robin Chambers.
Right.
All these different musicians that we've stated over the course of the podcast. And that is where word of mouth really excels in regards to against the internet.
Yeah, it's a lot more genuine, I feel, because you can have a conversation with the people that are there rather than like, thanks for coming to the show, good night, goodbye, see you later, or I won't ever see you later, something like that. Like I went and saw Portugal the Man and Alt J yesterday in Philly, big concert, and that was a lot of fun, but it was kind of like there wasn't really opportunities to talk to people other than maybe who you were sitting directly next to. But I'm not gonna like make a deep connection probably with a crowd of people, and likewise for them, they're not talking to any of these people unless maybe they were VIPs or something like that.
Right.
So I don't know, there's part of me that even sort of likes the intimacy, I think, of the small crowd, and just being, like I said, being there now and just taking the moment for what it is rather than trying to obsess about monetizing it or obsess about fame or something like that. But like what you said, it is important and to get some money somehow, especially if that's what you want to do. And again, that's sort of why I ended up on teaching, because it was sort of obvious to me.
Teaching is always a good way to make money, especially if you kind of have a grasp of what you're doing.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to learn a little bit now, is the business side, is to kind of swallow that pill and be like, okay, I do have to try to be professional.
Right. Yes.
So that's been interesting, but I'm excited to dive into that a little bit.
We can dive into that.
I just mean for my career, because I'm basically just doing that now, like getting marketing and stuff kind of figured out. Like I said, I'm a little bit contemptuous of all that kind of stuff. So, but it's exciting for me to do that. Just like really get into it, try to figure out my brand or whatever, try to figure out advertising and kind of stuff, things like that.
Been a journey for me to try to figure out my branding for like my own personal, like Corey Rosen Productions. You can follow that on Facebook if you'd like. And figuring out what the story podcast is supposed to be.
Sure.
Because I want to have a clear vision in mind, because that's how you get people on board. Is if you have your vision and then you stick to it. The day that the story podcast fails is the day that I bring in like the giant axe, and I only bring in the giant axe. Like if I perchance get Elton John himself here, that granted I would be ecstatic. Yeah. However, if I'm only doing bigger artists like Rihanna or other gigantic, like Justin Bieber, if I'm only doing that, I've lost the plot. I have to realize that my journey, and that's what I feel like a lot of musicians do struggle with. Like they forget where they came from, and they become consumed with their mega celebrityism or whatever it is, and they forget that I was once a high school student, or I once had these friends. I once had these group of local musicians that held me up in times when I desperately needed it.
Yeah.
Because there are countless times like I've like crashed at somebody else's place. Sure. They've given me food. Mm-hmm. They've given me a ride. Or I've given them a ride, and just it's very generous. People can be, and to lose sight of that is where a lot of musicians come into trouble.
Sure. Yeah. But when it becomes about you or them, like all about, like I was saying, my fame, my money, my whatever it is, it's easy to lose sight of, like we were talking about, community and what really should be important, I think, rather than making sure you have as much money as possible.
Right. Well, with that, I feel like that's ended our time here.
Sounds good.
That's a good wrap up.
Yeah.
Well, Henry, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, and I'd love to have you again. So you have this, you're playing at 551 West Saturday.
I think that's 7, maybe 8 to midnight, something like that, later at night. That's what I got going on. Follow me, add me on Facebook, Henry Devorick. Happy to talk to whoever wants to, or happy to play bass if you pay me.
You can find us at the open mic tonight at Hell in a Bucket, Wrightsville, PA. And you can find him on Spotify, Henry Devorick, or the Umbrella.
Nelson Umbrella.
Yep.
And
with that, we're going to say goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.